What if the reason caregiving feels so impossible right now isn't because you're doing it wrong, but it's because you're doing it with less than everyone assumes that you have? You have less time, you have less money, you have less backup for support for yourself, and you really have less margin in case anything actually goes wrong. And yet, here you are. You're still showing up. You're still managing the things that you need to manage. Today, I want to talk to you about what it really costs to care for multiple generations. Maybe your children or adult children, your aging parents, and you might even have some grandparents in the mix. What's it cost you if you don't have the luxury of having unlimited resources? My name is Amy, and I'm a coach for family caregivers. And this is episode 3 in the Sandwich Generation series that I have put together. We've talked about the traditional sandwich generation caregiver, right? Caring for kids as well as caring for your aging parents. And we've also talked about that submarine sandwich caregiver who has caregiving on the horizon. Today, we're going to talk about the po' boy caregiver, as I like to call it, because you're working with limited resources. You have a whole lot on your plate, but you don't have a whole lot of tricks in your bag to help you out. Maybe financial, maybe some strategies, maybe just resources of people to help you. So I want to talk to you about this type of caregiving today. So let me tell you what the po' boy sandwich caregiver is. You see what I'm doing here with the names of the sandwiches? I crack myself up. Okay, you got to have some levity in this, right? Okay, so if you are a po' boy sandwich caregiver, you are supporting multiple generations simultaneously, right? You have your own children, right? Your own children in their home, but let's face it, they're kids. They don't necessarily see how far you're being stretched. And, maybe they shouldn't. Maybe they should just be kids. They grow up fast enough as it is. They don't always have to know all of the adult stresses and strains. But you also are caring for your aging parent. You're most likely beyond just the occasional check-in, that now you're giving pretty consistent care with them. And then this multiple generation, you might also have grandparents in the mix that you are helping out, that you're checking in on. Maybe they're in a facility, but nonetheless, you're the voice of reason for taking care of them. And underneath all of that, often, not always, but often, there are limited resources. You have limited finances, you have limited time off of work, and you have to work because you have to pay for things, right? You can't go without working. And you might have limited people who are there able to help, whether they're not there because they're unwilling, because they're unable to, or because of distance, that they are just too far away. And so you are on your own. And most importantly, you have limited emotional reserve because you've been doing this for so long. And here's what I want to say very clearly here before we go any further. I'm not here to feel sorry for you, because that's not what this is about. And my po' boy sandwich caregivers that I work with in my Caregivers Thriving membership are some of the most creative, resourceful, resilient people that I know. They know how to do things on a shoestring and get the job done. And it is always so amazing. But what I want to share is, and in real honesty here with you, is that your resilience, right, that ability to keep showing up, it's limited. And we think to ourselves that we can continue to do more and do more and do more, even with less, but that is not actually the case, right? There's a breaking point there. And many people might not see it on the outside, but having walked in your shoes, I know that you need support so that you don't reach that breaking point. And if you have reached that breaking point or you are at that breaking point, I want you to know that you are no longer alone because you found me and I'm here to support you. And even though you've been handling it, right, and you've been doing great, you shouldn't have to do it all alone. I want you to know that what you are doing is actually extraordinary. And I don't mean that in a, hoity-toity, poetic kind of way. I want you to really recognize that what you're doing is unusual. Not everybody is going to step up in the way that you have stepped up. And I hear so many of my caregivers come and say to me, I don't even consider myself a caregiver. I'm just family doing what we're supposed to do. But in my experience and the experience of all of the caregivers that I've worked with over the years, there aren't a lot of people in families who just step up and do what they feel they're supposed to do. So what you're doing is extraordinary. And every once in a while, we have to recognize that and give ourselves a pat on the back for sticking with a very difficult job, not just physically, but it's mentally draining as well. Of all of the 5 types of the sandwich caregivers in this series, it's the po' boy sandwich caregiver that faces the greatest risk of burnout. And in my experience, that burnout isn't like one big grand moment that it happens. It's actually accumulation over time. It's one small thing after another, until finally your tank is empty and you have nothing left to pour out. And one of the biggest things that leads to that burnout is actually the financial strain of it. It's always part of the picture. And whether it's, taking time off work to handle a crisis that's come up for your loved one, or it's absorbing the cost of things that are happening that were never really put into your budget, or it's just the tax of people calling you whenever something happens with your loved one. They come to you as the person who has all of the answers. Either way you look at it, there's a financial weight to it, and not many people actually talk about that, but that really weighs heavy. And what makes it harder is that most caregiving advice that you receive out there assumes that you have all the resources that you need, right? People tell you, well, just bring in the home health aide, as if you could pay for that. Or they assume that you have someone that you can call on, like a sibling or a neighbor or somebody who can come in and help. And it assumes that you have the flexibility to schedule the things that you need within your own schedule. And none of that might be the case for you. The po' boy caregivers has limited resources, right? What if you can't do all of that? What do you do when that advice, that generic advice that is out there, doesn't actually fit you? And that's what I'm here to talk about. Can I ask you something? When was the last time that somebody actually looked at you and asked you what you needed? Not what your parent needs, not what your kids need, not what the whole, situation in general needs, but actually look at you and ask what you need. When my clients first meet me and we have a talk, often on Zoom, face to face, through the screen, and I ask them that question, there's dead silence because they're never asked that question. So do me a favor, in the comments below, tell me, have you been asked how you are doing and what you need? in your caregiver situation. So I want you to know here, and I mean every word of this, that you needing support is not a sign of your weakness or your failure, right? It's not a character flaw on your part. It's it's the most logical thing when you are doing something that is actually impossible, right? It's an impossible situation to be juggling all the things you're juggling. Let's face it, you've had plans in your life. You've been working toward what you want to do. And here comes this obligation alongside of you that you have the compassion to say, okay, I will work on this too. It's an addition, right? It wasn't your original plan. And I'm going to guess that if you're not in the healthcare field, everything you've been experiencing is completely new to you. That's what makes it impossible. So it is not a fault of yours to be needing extra help and extra support. You deserve the support that fits you in your situation, in your version of what is happening, not a generic version that somebody talks about out there, writes an article about. It's about you and your individual life with your kids, your aging parent, and possibly a grandparent thrown into the mix. So what you as a po' boy caregiver really needs isn't motivation, right? You have more than enough motivation. You show up every single day doing what you do. And sure, we get stressed, we wake up and we don't want to do things, but you have that compassion to show up. What you actually need is you need a strategy, a realistic strategy that works for you in your situation with your resources that you actually have around you. Not ones we wish we had, but ones that you actually have around you. Dealing with your family dynamics as they are. Not some fantasy plan where everything is perfect and you can just pick off the shelf all of the things that you need. So inside my Caregivers Thriving membership, the first thing we do, the first thing we do is we don't start with this ideal situation. We look at your situation, your real life situation. And I work personally with you to build an approach that will work with your lifestyle. Our goal is for you to be able to live your life and manage your loved ones if that's what you choose to do, right? How to manage this with the limited resources that you have and how to protect your well-being in the process so that you can be there for all of your loved ones that you're willing to take care of, but not losing yourself in the process. Right? Asking for help, seeking the help when we need it. So I want you to know that I am here for you. Check out my link in the description for my membership so that I can actually partner with you and you can get the real help you need, not some canned generic help. But in the meantime, I want to hear from you. I want you down there in the comments to tell me which part of your caregiver experience is really pulling at you the most. Is it your parents? Is it your kids? Is it your work? Is it grandparents? What is it that really is pulling at you? I really want to know. I want to hear your story. All right, my friends, if this was your episode, if this po' boy caregiver experience is your life, I want you to carry this with you. What you're doing is extraordinary, and don't let anybody talk you out of believing that, not even yourself. Not everybody is stepping up in the way that you are stepping up, and I think that you probably know that. So don't minimize it. All right, so I want you to come back because there might be other parts of the Sandwich Caregiver series that also hits home for you. Next, I'm going to talk about a Sandwich Caregiver that might even have more layers than what you are experiencing. So be sure to come back, be sure to learn more, and share this with any other caregivers that you might know, maybe in a support group that you've actually hooked up with face to face. Share this with them so that they can get the help that they need as well. Remember, nobody should walk this journey alone.